our own town? Are we going to remain as a community services district or become a city of our own, the city of Mountain House? We have very early returns from the county so far. The registrar of voters posted the first batch from early returns that they got in the mail-in ballots and drop-off boxes. They've been collecting from our drop-off box every day for a month, I guess, since they started doing this March 6th, February 6th. Anyway, we have early returns showing us that with 13.9% of the votes counted. So keep in mind, as I tell you these numbers, this is very early stuff. And they have until April 2nd to certify the election. We're told that there will be one more posting at 10 o'clock tonight. It's 8:30 now, so in just a little while we'll have an update for you. But for now, Measure D on the question of whether or not Mountain House will become a city has received a vast majority of yes votes. It's 92.16% yes and just 7.84% no. That's 1,069 votes counted for the yes on D and just 91 no's on D. So it's too early to call, of course, because this is only 13.9% of the total votes that they have, which I'm not even sure if they know how many ballots. It might be 13.9% of the total registered voters, which, yeah, we're not expecting all of those people to vote. So,
while you are selecting 4 council members and 1 mayor this evening, they are only seated if Measure D passes. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Measure E determines whether in the future they would be the council members would be elected at large, by district, or from district. And then just a reminder that everything would be effective July 1st. So Monday, July 1st would be a very large city council meeting, but there'll be a lot of work that gets done before that. The current board of directors did take an action last year to allocate some dollars for training should we have a city council in waiting this spring. So there'll be a series of meetings in April, May, and June that will be open to the public to orient the new city council on all the actions that they'll be needing to undertake beginning July 1st.
So what everybody wants to know, I'm sure, beyond Measure D, Measure E, just to let you know that so far, the at-large choice, you have at-large by district or from district. At-large voting is on top with just shy of 47%, 46.99% of the votes. Again, this is just 13.9% of the total votes. So by district is in second, quite a bit behind at 30.69%. So there's a little more than almost a 17% gap there. And then from district is behind that at 22.32. What everybody, I'm sure, is anxious to hear is where the city council races for 4 seats on the city council plus the elected mayor. This will be the very first mayor of Mountain House. Again, very early returns. Nobody can call it yet, but it gives us an idea of where it's trending. And there will be an update at 10, and then the registrar is planning to update, I believe, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if I remember what I read earlier. We'll confirm that until they're ready to certify. So the votes of people, we were out earlier this evening talking with people who were dropping off their ballots. There were a lot of people dropping off their ballots today. So even tonight, just before the election time ended. So there will be more ballots for the registrar to count for sure. So far, with just 13.9 showing, early returns show Dr. Andy Sue in the lead with the voting for mayor at 61.59% with 744 votes. Again, very early to call. In second then is Harry Dillon at 32.2%, 389 votes. And coming up behind them is Raj Reddy at 6.21% votes, 75 votes. So early returns again. So we did talk to a few of the people dropping off their votes to see what they had to say about Measure D in particular. Can I ask you, if you don't mind, how you voted on Measure D on the cityhood?
Yes.
Voted yes?
Voted yes.
I have not talked to anybody who voted no yet.
That's good to hear. Needs to be a yes.
What do you see as the biggest benefit?
Tax dollars. You know, the tax dollars that we don't get from the county, from the state. You know, if we become Mountain House as a city, we'll have the opportunity to get those dollars. Better for the kids, better for everybody. So, appreciate your time.
Yes, sir, I got one going. Yes, it says waiting. So this is a first try for us doing the live stream thing on this kind of a reporting event. So please do bear with us as we go here. We don't have Steve Kornacki on the board to show us the numbers, but we do have Khalid with the chart that's being presented by the county. So far, for the 4 seats for our city council, this is all based on Measure D passing, but so far Measure D looks like it's going to win in a landslide in early returns. The leaders for city council at this point are Matt Disco, Dan Harrison, Bernice Tingle, and Ronna Green. TJ Tejdeep Ratan is just within a point of 4th place Rana. And then you have Suresh and Sadia and Wahid Mir coming up behind them. So again, this is early returns and a lot can change. So you can't really base a whole lot. This is a tight race. Matt Disco at 21%, 21.14 with 754 votes. Dan Harrison at 17.92 with 639 votes, and Bernice Tingle at 15.03% at 536 votes, and Ronna Green at 13.85%, and Tejdeep with 13.04. So he's 80.81% down with 465 votes. Ronna Green has 494 votes thus far. Again, this is 13.9% of the votes counted. And there will be an update from the registrar at 10 o'clock tonight. So that's kind of where we stand right now. No, go for it. Yeah. As long as you got juice in that thing. I did find that in talking with people at the Dropbox tonight, there was some confusion about Measure E in particular and which way to go for our future election governance. Will we vote at large or by district or from district? Tonight, the people that I spoke with, by and large, were in favor of by district. And that's doing well. So there might be some change there. There's a sizable gap between the at-large at 46.99%, 47% to almost 31% for the by district. Yes. So let's hear what one of our voters has to say about that. Thank you. Can I ask did you support cityhood? Measure D? Yeah?
Yeah.
How about the Measure E? Did you understand that one? No? It was a little confusing. people have said, whether to vote by district or at large. Yeah. Well, thank you. It's a wild night. I've always seen coverage of elections, and it does seem to be looser than most broadcasts that you see, and I get a sense for that right now. We decided this morning that it'd be really great for us to be able to present to you some live election returns, and I won't have an update for you again until after 10 o'clock, but I can tell you how other San Joaquin people within the county are voting for other races. Again, with 13.9% of the votes counted thus far, President Biden is way out in front in the Democratic primary. No surprise there. He's got nearly 90% of the total votes, 89.55%. Donald Trump is at 78.46 in the Republican primary, with Nikki Haley coming in at just 18%, 18.05. So far, and again, it's only 13.9%, 14% of the vote. There are other candidates. Jill Stein for the Green Party, James Bradley for the American Independent Party, both of whom have gotten 100% of their party's votes thus far. The Libertarian candidate, Charles Ballet, also is at 100% with 97 votes. Peace and Freedom Party has a split between 3 people. And then you go into the state senator's race, which has been hotly contested with interesting result here. Carlos Villalpudua has been running a fierce campaign, and Jerry McNerney, our former congressman here in Mountain House, is kind of coming out of retirement to run for state senate. He's been making a good push of late. And then there's Jim Shoemaker. And I believe that the way this works, if I understand this correctly, that in the California primary, the top 2 vote getters will run off in the general election in November. So this is interesting because Jim Shoemaker thus far is coming in with 41.85% of the vote. And then Jerry McNerney is in second place at 33.11%. So it's fairly significant difference, more than 8.8 percentage point difference. And Carlos Villalpudua comes in at 25.05% so far. Again, this is early returns. That's an interesting race that we want to keep an eye on for sure. In the race for the state assembly, if I can get down, there we are. In our District 13 that we are in, Carlos Villalpudua is actually our current assembly member. There was some wrangling that went on earlier in the year in the campaign where he was going to run for re-election as the assembly member. He switched that to the state senate, and his wife, Edith Villalpudua, jumped on board to run for assembly, or maybe she was going to do that. There was a switch that happened. And then Rhodesia Ransom is running against Edith Villalpudua and Denise Aguilar Mendez for the Assembly District 13. Currently, with just under 14% of the vote counted thus far, Rhodesia Ransom is on top with 41.65% of the vote. Denise Aguilar Mendez is behind her at 34.51, and Edith Villalpudua is at 23.84%. So that's a race to watch as well. And I believe that's the same setup where the top 2 vote getters will do a runoff election in November. I best confirm that because I'm pretty sure that's the way that's working though. I'm on that page just up higher. Do you have another video? It's that one you sent me. It's got all of the, it's the San Joaquin? Yeah, now, oh, you know what? This isn't even that, I mean, those are races that pertain specifically to San Joaquin County, but you can also talk about where the United States Senator race stands, but this isn't for the whole state. I need to go to the Secretary of State's roster for that, but within San Joaquin County, Adam Schiff is ahead of Steve Garvey, and then Katie Porter is significantly behind that. Schiff has 36.25, Steve Garvey's at 29.42, and Katie Porter's 9.01. But this is only the San Joaquin vote, and that's a statewide race. So I don't know how much credence you can put in that. We really need to look at the Secretary of State's statewide race numbers for that. And we have another little clip from earlier today. You. Is this your first time voting?
For them, yep.
Yeah.
You can get it? Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Good
All right.
Can I ask if you guys supported the turning into a city?
Yes, we did.
Right
Yes.
on.
Hi, guys.
Good job, guys. It's a great way to get the kids involved. People coming out to the parking lot there or coming through the town hall. The last election, they had the ballot box was a smaller box inside the town hall hallway. So people thought that's where it would be. There were a lot of people coming in there. So there were signs and other folks to direct them where to go. And I see that Khalid has the roster up there. This is for mayor that you're seeing right there. That's it. Andy Sue, you can see, is off to a strong start. And Harry Dillon and Raj Reddy. Again, this is all based on Measure D passing. So if Measure D were to fail, then all of this would not even count, and you would go strictly back to the way it is currently with the Mountain House Community Services District Board of Directors, and then Andy Sue and Harry Dillon both serve on that board. Assuming that Measure D continues to excel, you will have a mayor. One of these three will become the mayor, and then Khalid, if you can put down just the list right below that, you can see where we stand with the early returns on the city council candidates. We might get a better feel for where this actually stands later tonight when we get to the 10 o'clock hour and the registrar is able to post again for us, give us another update. If it's a similar batch, we'll be over 20% of the total vote. Maybe 25%. That might be more telling than just a small return like this. But this shows you at least the early returns. They counted the votes based on people doing their mail-in ballots. So this is probably mostly mail-in ballots, but they also have been collecting the ballots from the Dropbox location at Town Hall on a daily basis. And so they've been tallying all of that and hopefully being ready to present it tonight. So I'm sure it'll all come in batches. And then the votes that were made as of before 8 o'clock tonight will be brought in, and the people that you could mail your vote today, and as long as it got postmarked by today, I believe you have up to a week for it to get to the registrar, and then they have through the end of the month, basically, to count them all and then certify the election, I believe, on April 2nd. So we may not have final results, but a lot of times you end up with a clear margin that it's enough to be able to tell where you are pretty accurately. In other news, I guess this is a statewide one too, but as far as San Joaquin voters and their early returns for Proposition 1 for the mental health services, it is ahead in San Joaquin County, but by a fairly narrow margin. It's 51.91% in favor and 48.09% voted no. Probably when you take into account the Bay Area and some more urban areas, my guess would be that that will pass. But that's totally a guess at this point. Yes. We did get a chance to talk with our general manager, who would become our city manager, Mr. Steve Pinkerton.
Reminder.
You may have seen him on some news reports, but here's what he had.
Reminder that while you are selecting 4 council members and 1 mayor this evening, they are only seated if Measure D passes. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Measure E determines whether in the future they would be the council members would be elected at large, by district, or from district. And then just a reminder that everything would be effective July 1st. So Monday, July 1st would be a very large city council meeting, but there'll be a lot of work that gets done before that. The current board of directors did take an action last year to allocate some dollars for training should we have a city council in waiting this spring. So there'll be a series of meetings in April, May, and June that will be open to the public to orient the new city council on all the actions that they'll be needing to undertake beginning July 1st.
Thank you. Can I ask did you support cityhood? Measure D? Yeah?
Yeah.
How about the Measure E? Did you understand that one? No? It was a little confusing, people have said, whether to vote by district or at large. Yeah. Well, thank you. Can I ask you, if you don't mind, how you voted on Measure D on the cityhood?
Yes.
Voted yes?
Voted yes.
I have not talked to anybody who voted no yet.
That's good to hear. Needs to be a yes.
What do you see as the biggest benefit?
Tax dollars. The tax dollars that we don't get from the county, from the state. If we become Mountain House as a city, we'll have the opportunity to get those dollars. Better for the kids, better for everybody. So, appreciate your time.
Thank you. Is this your first time voting?
For them, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get it? Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Good
job. Alright.
Can I ask if you guys supported the turning into a city?
Yes, we did.
Right on.
Hi, guys.
Good job, guys. Fun stuff. Nice to see families all out doing the voting thing. Get the kids used to that from the start. I did want to mention that we posted a poll of our own, kind of a little straw poll thing, on the Mountain House Matters Facebook page, and I shared it on the Mountain House group page as well. We'd like to have people, complete the poll just so we can kind of get a sense of it. We'll be able to extrapolate out from answers we get there to probably get a fairly accurate picture of where this is headed. So it would benefit the efforts in looking at all of this as we go if we had more people answer that. So that would be great to do. So while I was over at Town Hall and talking to some people there, I ventured into the library the library just to show the activity. The Mountain House Branch Library, I believe, is the second busiest library in the county, and there's always action going on there. I happened to run into council candidate and current vice president of the Mountain House Community Services District Board, Bernice Tingle, who was working with her Youth Action Committee on their tutoring program. So, caught a little bit of action at the library, and then as well as ran into Miss Tingle. So she gave us a little bit. This is footage of her tutoring group from the Youth Action Committee. Thank you. Can I ask how did you support cityhood? Measure D? Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the Measure E? Did you understand that one? No. It was a little confusing, people have said, whether to vote by district or at large. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Okay.
And this is what Ms. Tingle had to say.
I just hope everybody gets out and vote. It's not really important who you vote for, it's that you get out and exercise your right to vote and get in the habit of voting. Look at the issues and be familiar with them, but exercise that right to vote. It's our right.
So that was great to be able to run into her while we're down at Town Hall there. Spoke with Mr. Pinkerton about the design of that Town Hall entrance a little bit, and he was telling me how there was a lot of discourse and wrangling about how that should look and how the library sign and stuff should be placed. I'd say it came out beautiful, especially that time of day with the lighting and stuff on it. It was great. So again, if you would go to our Facebook page, and the Mountain House Matters Facebook page, or the Mountain House group also has forwarded a shared copy of the poll, I would really appreciate kind of getting some more input on that. And we will update this as we go as well. Lots of people are voting. Can I ask you if you're in favor of Mountain House becoming a city?
Yes, I am.
So
I
you voted yes?
Yes, I did.
Right on. Care to share anything else?
We're excited to become a city, finally, after all this time.
How long have you been here?
12 years?
Huh?
Yeah, 12 years.
Going on 15 for me.
Oh my gosh.
That's good.
Yeah, Bethany.
Bethany too.
Awesome. Can't wait to see the results.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're just joining us, we've been giving you some early returns on the election coverage for the big issue of Mountain House becoming a city. We've seen a lot of news coverage from the Chronicle to news channels, TV channels in Sacramento. I know that Channel 3 did probably the biggest expose on that. They actually sent their helicopter down here and got some good footage and interviewed a few people. And then Channel 10, the CBS affiliate, I think, did some coverage as well, and Channel 13, whatever they all are. But three different channels had some coverage on Mountain House becoming a city. The last time there was a new city in California was in 2011, and it just doesn't happen very often. Um, One big difference over some other cities that have done this or have tried to do this, I know Castro Valley made an effort at one point to become a city, and it failed, and they are still unincorporated. And it's a pretty good size, I don't know what the population is there, but it's a pretty good sized community, and they remain unincorporated. So it's not really a for sure thing. There's been a lot of planning that's gone into this. There was an initial committee that met right in this room. We're in the what used to be the CSD board chambers, that's now Zaytech Academy. And I was part of a committee that had some key players in Mountain House, and our then general manager involved in doing a committee study on whether or not the Community Services District should even really start to investigate incorporation and whether to become a city. It wasn't, the committee was not tasked with deciding whether or not it was viable. It was tasked with doing a preliminary groundwork to see whether or not they should start to look into it. That committee determined that yes, it's probably a good time to start looking into it, and it took another 2 years before the district actually took steps to do that. Sarah Ragsdale led the efforts to do a whole postulation. That's probably not the right word. She did a whole study to determine at build out, when there's 44,000+ people living in Mountain House, how would we fare as a city? If we were to incorporate at some point, would that even be a viable option? Her determination was it would, and that it would be, she ran several different scenarios and determined that incorporating would actually, looks like it would make sense for Mountain House to at least look into doing. And then by 2021, the Community Services District put together a proposal and proposed to the LAFCO agency in San Joaquin County to submit to applying for incorporation. I think there was an update that had to happen with that, and LAFCO proceeded to do an intensive, comprehensive fiscal analysis that is available online. I can post a link to that if people are interested in looking at it. I just perused it again the other day. It's a 144-page document that covers a lot of ground and really investigates whether or not Mountain House could survive as a city if it was a viable option. They came out with, their board voted unanimously on September 13th, 14th in 2023 in favor of moving forward and allowing Mountain House to pursue putting it on the ballot for the people to determine whether or not we wanted to do that as a community. That's the final step, and that's what tonight represents, is the final step in approval of that process. One of the key reasons that Mountain House can even consider becoming a city is because it was set up from the start that due to our special taxes, we've already been in charge of a lot of what a city does with the 18 powers that the Community Services District has had since the start. There are an additional 6 powers, as I understand, that the city will now be able to do that we couldn't do as a Community Services District. And probably more importantly, there are funds that we'll have access to for roadways and sales taxes and various things that we don't qualify for. Grant money that when you're not a city you can't apply for. There are a lot of things that can be done that haven't been available to us. And probably at least as importantly is, as a city, we will become the 8th city within San Joaquin County, and as a city we will have a seat at the table with the local or the regional county council of governments, the COG. And that is the agency that determines a lot of where monies in the county are spent, where a lot of the tax dollars go, and we will have a say in that. We have never had a say in that. So there's a possibility that we can help determine what new infrastructure is built and various other things. So it's important. It actually, from everything I've read and from the LAFCO agency's report on the comprehensive fiscal analysis, they determined that Mountain House will have the ability to succeed because we've already been pretty self-sufficient even without that. And to be able to step up and, as some of our candidates have said, to take responsibility and basically be an adult in the community of cities. So again, right now, if you're just joining us, Measure D is way ahead at 92% approval with just 13.9% of the votes being reported. But that's over 1,000 votes, and we have somewhere close to 9,500 registered voters. It's expected in the off-year election that we may see half of those actually vote. So you probably have around 4,600 to 5,000 votes that will be cast when this is all done. So 1,000 would represent, what, 20%, I guess. So it may be early returns, but it's significant that it's that much of a lead at 92% versus less than 8% no. So it's looking good, Mountain House, as becoming a city. And then again, the Measure E information of the choices, you don't need a majority vote on that. You just need whichever of the three choices gets the most votes will be the way we go. This is to determine how future elections will be decided, not for the mayor. The mayor will remain, my understanding is the mayor will be an at-large voting no matter what. But the 4 council members will be either at-large or by district or from district. At-large simply means that everybody in town votes for everybody on the council, and that everybody on the council then represents everybody in town. It's the way we've always done it here. But California's making a push to change things over to a by-district kind of voting or from district. By-district means that they would take not the mayor, but the other 4 council seats. They would establish zones, geographic zones of by district within town. So it wouldn't be by village because we have more villages than we have council members. So, but it would roughly be, well, by the time we're done, it would almost be, it would be over 3, almost 4 villages roughly per council member that would be represented if we were by district. And that would be that everybody in that district, in a particular district, would vote for a candidate that comes from that district. So the candidates would have to reside within the zone of that district. And then they would represent the people in that district. So it would, it's been argued, it was argued to meet with me today that, or asserted, not really argued, but asserted that it would allow some of the newer districts in particular, the newer villages, to have some representation that's specifically for them, and especially for the districts that are still coming up that haven't been turned over to the local government yet. They're still owned by the developers putting them together. When that happens, like we have in the south of Grant Line area, all of College Park is still not turned over to the Community Services District. So they have very little push, very little authority, not really any real authority, but they might have some influence with the developers. But as long as it's developer land, then the people aren't really represented by the district entirely. They are, but only through what the developers can and are willing to do. So I know with Cuesta Village, for example, years ago when it was first coming up, it took several years for that to get done and then turned over to the CSD. And until that time happened, they weren't able to respond to a lot of the queries and complaints that some of the neighbors might have had. I know they had an aphid issue with a lot of the trees that the district couldn't do anything about, other than try to get the developer to do something about it, and they ultimately did. So, I mean, things get worked out, but that's just kind of the way that goes. So to have a by-district representation might help get some push behind that, too. And the other option then is from district, and from district is sort of a hybrid, and that is in 3rd place right now, so it might not even be a big concern. But it's basically the representative has to be from a particular zone or district, but they're voted on by all of the people in town. So that's like the at-large. Everybody in town votes for all of the council members. but they would represent that particular district that they're from. So, and then there again, you would have 4 districts because you'll have 4 council members, and then the mayor represents everybody at large. These are not full-time positions that you're voting for the mayor or city council. They do get paid a little bit, but, and my understanding, I've just learned that it's a little bit more than what the current CSD board gets paid. The board for years got paid $100 per meeting that they attended. So if they had 1 meeting a month, they were making $100 a month. If they did 2, they'd get paid double that. So there you go. I believe the rate of pay for council members will be closer to $1,000, $900 or something like that, based on a month, not on per meeting that they attend. And they will be, so they're basically sort of part-time. Obviously, it's not enough for a full-time job, and the mayor gets the same rate, but the council can actually elect to have the mayor get a little more money. I'm not sure if there's a cap on that, but and I just learned that today. So learning stuff all the time. This is going to be a whole new process. One of the things that Steve Pinkerton talked about, I think it's on the other clip we have. Do we have that? Yes. He talks a little bit about the process leading up to what's going to happen July 1st.
That while you are selecting 4 council members and 1 mayor this evening, they are only seated if Measure D passes. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Measure E determines whether in the future they would be the council members would be elected at large, by district, or from district. And then just a reminder that everything would be effective July 1st. So Monday, July 1st would be a very large city council meeting, but there'll be a lot of work that gets done before that. The current board of directors did take an action last year to allocate some dollars for training should we have a city council in waiting this spring. So there'll be a series of meetings in April, May, and June that will be open to the public to orient the new city council on all the actions that they'll be needing to undertake beginning July 1st.
So I'll just kind of introduce what a beautiful place it is. And we're back. You are witnessing a first ever event of Mountain House Matters and Zaytech Academy, trying to do this live stream thing and give you some election coverage tonight. We're having fun. I hope you're having a good time, whatever you're doing. And I know the council members who are running are probably all on the edge of their seats waiting for the update of the next posting by the registrar, which will be at, they said, about 10 o'clock. What is it, 9:20 now? So it's getting there. You know, Mountain House has been in the news a lot lately, and even when before then, we've been in the news a lot since we started up. Back in 2008, when the crash happened, well, even before that, there was some news about Mountain House because there hadn't been a city just started up out of nothing like this before. It was approved in 1994, and the first groundbreaking was in 2001, I believe, and the first homes started coming up around 2003, 2004, and here we are 20 years later after that. So it's been going on 30 years since the initial approval of this place being built. Things don't happen overnight around here. It can take a while for new villages to develop, and yet over the pandemic, we added like 3,000 people at least. So there was a lot of growth. So there are a lot of new people in town, and a lot of people are just kind of coming up to speed on how this place functions. So more on that. We've got another video clip.
All right, okay. Just
There you go.
buddies here. Oh, we're done?
Yeah, well, I'm doing video.
Oh, okay.
Watch you actually do it. Can I ask you guys how you voted on becoming a city?
You know, that brings a question to me. On the last one that says at large, and
Oh,
the other one says this, that question is a little bit confusing.
Was it?
Yes, because by district, meaning like people outside the city can actually.
Oh, no,
participate?
no, it means that they would break Mountain House up into maps, on a map, into different zones.
Okay.
So each council member would represent one district, one zone.
Oh, okay. But
Re-
which one is at large?
At large means that everybody in town votes for all the board members, and all the council members represent everybody in town.
They should have at least make that thing a little bit. I was like trying to me and my wife was going through it. I was like, she was like, even my daughter came in. I was like, oh, okay. And we didn't have any place to actually kind of clarify the change for us. Well, it is what it is. So, but we did our best to vote.
Do you know what you went with?
We did our best to vote
Yeah.
on that one. So,
But you voted to become a city?
yes, of course, of course, of course.
Right on.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Thank you. It was pretty fun being out there at the ballot box and people coming up to drop in their votes. It's a little different thing than back in the day. You'd actually come and vote. There'd be the voting booths all set up and people would get their votes counted that way. For a long time, I would prefer to do that just because there was the experience of being a voter and the whole thing just had a feel to it. So you kind of lose that. But standing out there at the drop box today was really pretty fun because I got to talk with numerous people and they were all just doing their duty, doing their civic duty and coming out and putting their vote in place. I was a little surprised at how many people were voting, at the last, not really last minute, but on the last afternoon, the last day. I stood out there for a while and it was a steady stream of cars and people walking up and, one after another voting. So it's good. It's kind of nice you can do it on your own pace and fill out your ballot and bring it and drop it off. Or they could have mailed them. So if you mailed it today, as long as it's postmarked today, it will be counted. You have a week for it to show up, I think 6 days for it to show up at the registrar's office via the mail, and it has to have been postmarked by today, which I think means you probably had to get it mailed before 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock or something like that. Otherwise, dropping in the drop box at the town hall, that was open until 8 o'clock tonight. So, and there were people walking up just minutes before the deadline. So there will be votes to count. We have the early returns, but it's less than 14% of the total. So these figures could change a lot. Even in our next posting, it could change a lot. So I encourage people to stay tuned. And we would like to hear from you. So if you go to the Mountain House Matters Facebook page or the Mountain House group page, we have our little poll posted there. It asks who you voted for and whether or not you supported Measure D and Measure E. And you can keep it anonymous or you can tell us who you are. That's up to you whether or not you do that. But we'd kind of like to get a feel for what people were thinking more. I've got a pretty good feel of the people that were depositing their votes on the last day, which quite frankly was a little more than I expected. We did in this very room, we did a candidate discussion on Sunday night, and we took it to this shaping our future look and tried to bring it out of the politics because there's been a lot of fierce politics going on. And we figured if we could bring it back out of that and put it more into the community aspect of why these people are running for this, because they're not running for it for the money. It's not like they're getting paid a lot of money to be on the council. They're running for it because they care about the community. And I think without exception, you can say that's true. So why are they running? Because they care. So one of the things I wanted to find out from them is, if in the event that Measure D didn't pass, which I didn't really think was likely, but if it didn't, and none of them would have a seat on a council because there wouldn't be a city council, a couple of them would be on the current board, several of them would be on the current board, but it would go back to status quo. how did they see that they could then serve the community? Some of the responses were really more about, well, let's try and make it happen again. Let's make an immediate push to get back onto the cityhood deal. But to do that would be a whole process. I think the whole process would have to start over. Maybe they could take some of the information used previously, but studies would have to be done again. There would have to be hundreds of thousands of dollars invested into making it happen to get it back on the ballot. So, like Castro Valley has never done it again, to my knowledge. They've never tried to become a city again once their first attempt failed, because it's very expensive and it's a lot of effort to try and make it happen. So this is a big opportunity for Mountain House to become a city, not just because there hasn't been a city in 13 years, but because you don't want to have to do it again. If you don't succeed the first time, sure, you can make every effort. Some of the other people that we were discussing with actually pointed out some things that they already do in the community that they might just continue serving the community in that way, from food bank, food opportunities, to serving on a sports league board, and various things like that. So they're working with kids. There's a lot that people do, and I think the people that are civically minded and want to contribute to helping the town prosper and having the kids here grow up in a positive manner, they deserve a lot of credit. And I really think that that's where a lot of the impetus for wanting to be on the city council comes from. After this race is up, again, I mentioned earlier that 2 of the elected city council members from this election will receive a 4-year term. The elected mayor will receive a 4-year term. Ultimately, all of the seats will get a 4-year term, but initially, the 2 candidates that get the fewer votes in the total tally will have to run in 2 years for a 4-year seat. And that way you'll offset the total amount of, the time. So you have only 2 candidates at a time running. The mayor will be added with that every 4 years, and it offsets the whole thing. So you're not having to rerun the whole thing every time. You want to keep some institutional knowledge and experience on the board while the other people are being elected. So in 2 years, we're going to have a mini version of this again. In addition, we have this November will be an election for the school district board. They are in the process of shifting to a by-district format. And actually, tomorrow evening, March 6th, at the Lambertsville Unified School District board room chambers on De Anza at 7 o'clock, I believe, there will be a board meeting where they're hoping to actually determine which of the 7 maps that were presented to them, which of those maps, or some variation possibly of those, that they will select to use as their by-district guide. Now, the Lambertsville Unified School District has a whole different sphere of influence, bigger than the town of Mountain House, or the community of Mountain House. The boundary that is becoming the city of Mountain House, assuming this trend continues with Measure D, is Mountain House. It's Mountain House as we know it. And the sphere of influence of the Lambertsville Unified School District includes all of that. And it also includes the Von Sosten area to the east, and it includes the part of Alameda County to the west. There aren't a whole lot of people represented in those areas compared to the heart of Mountain House, but it is part of their sphere. So they're deciding which way to develop that. You can read more about that in this month's issue of the paper Mountain House Matters. There's a page 1 article that shows an example of a zoomed-in version of one of those maps and kind of outlines the whole thing. There's a link at the Lambertsville School District website that has a QR code, I believe, in that article that you can just zoom in, and so you can go look at those maps and get an idea. And I believe that the district would really like to hear from the public tomorrow. They did a community meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever day that was, where they actually had the demographer come in and show the various map options and talk with, we had Superintendent Kirk Nicholas, Dr. Kirk Nicholas there, and some staff. Noel was there, and we had myself and 3 other community members came out for that. I was kind of floored that that's all that showed up for it, but I understand people are busy. So you can check out the maps, and if you come to the meeting tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, you'll get to hear from the demographer himself, and there will be some time for public comment, I'm sure, and the board is hoping to be able to select which map they're going to go with. And then this districting map, they have 5 board members on their trustee members on their board. They will break the maps into 5 zones, whereas if Mountain House Community City Council ends up going by district, there will only be 4 zones because the mayor remains at large. So it's going to be a different map than what you'd have for the city council. The school district will have 5 zones, and they have to determine where that representation is going to be. It's a little tricky at this time because the numbers are based on the 2020 census. And since then, we've had, we're into the 4th year beyond that. We've had a lot of growth south of Grant Line in particular. The College Park Village is not very well represented on the numbers. So they've sort of tried to take that into account, but technically, by law, they have to go off of the numbers presented from the census. So the next update for those maps won't come until a year after the 3030 census or 3031. So this initial mapping process will begin with their election in November this year, and then that will be, I think, 2 or 3 of the seats, and then the other remaining seats will be in the following election. So by the time you get to 3030, they'll kind of get a good taste of how that's going to work, and then the maps will have to be redrawn in 3031 to determine the most effective way that the representatives can serve their districts. So it'll be an interesting experiment, and that initial decision is supposed to happen tomorrow night. So I would encourage those of you who have kids in the schools and care about this sort of thing and are available to be there. You can watch it online. It'll be on Zoom, I believe, or they have an online virtual link. But you can also come down to the school district building on De Anza. It's next to, now it used to be all by itself. Now it's next to the Aviara apartment complex down De Anza at the end of the street there. Anyway, if you're just joining us, this is your very first ever Mountain House Matters election night coverage. We're doing our best to give you some returns on the election that is monumental and historic for this community as we look to become a city. Leading up to this, I've heard very little pushback on the Measure D. Some, but these numbers so far bear that out. 92% so far are in favor of Measure D, with just fewer than 8% at 7.84% against. So it's only, it's 1,069 votes in favor, so it's about 20% maybe of the total vote count. Is that too early? 92%? It's looking pretty good, let's just say that. And so far, the Measure E results at just the early returns of less than 14% of the total votes. Is the at-large choice is ahead at just under 47%, which is significant. The by-district is following that at 30.69%. And then from district, that hybrid option is at 22.32%. What I started to say earlier is that Mountain House is really a beautiful place to live. We've invested into the community so much into the aesthetics and the parks and just the serenity of the town and the creek that we have. I had an opportunity to talk with our Public Works Director, Nader Sharegi, who has been involved in the development of this town since the very, very early days. And he was sharing some information with me about some of the things they had to correct that the developer was doing early on. But I know Nader primarily as the man who designed the Mountain House Creek. So if you go walking down that creek and just enjoy the beauty of it, you can thank Nader for a lot of that. I know there were other people involved, but Nader did a lot to make that happen and do the design. And he was telling me tonight that he's actually been attending the COG meetings, the Council of Governments, that as a city we will then be able to be part of, and he's already been urging them to include Mountain House in their considerations for where the monies are going to be applied. So all that to say, we have some excellent staff looking out for our best interests here, and it's just great to know that they've already been proactive about setting up the decision-making on that. Another area of interest that was discussed at our event the other night, you can see the recorded live stream of that on our YouTube channel. It's the one with the Shaping Your Future, where a bunch of us are sitting up front at this same location. There's the banner for it. We were talking a lot that evening about the Valley Link train system and what that's going to bring, what that's going to mean, not only to Mountain House, but really to the valley and to the traffic situation over the Altamont. The train system, once it begins operation, that's slated for 2028, will come from the Dublin, Pleasanton, BART station out over the Altamont to Mountain House. The Mountain House station will be the first station to be built in the valley, so it'll be the gateway to the valley. A lot of people will be coming to the Mountain House station to ride the train to BART or other destinations. I was told the other night that actually part of that whole system will be a link up with the ACE train, so people can take the ACE train to the Valley Link and then get into the Bay Area, or a variety of ways. I'm not really sure how that is all going to function, but the bottom line is Mountain House will be the first station. We're going to have a station that will be located along Mountain House Parkway at the freeway at 205, nestled right in the corner there. And then on the other side of Mountain House Parkway in the orchard, the almond orchards that are there now, somewhere over there, there will be a overflow station, or I think like a maintenance facility that they'll be able to keep the trains running. Eventually, there will be additional stations built in Tracy and Lathrop. I think there's a total of, I forget how many stations now. But there's going to be one in South Lathrop and one ultimately in North Lathrop, almost a French camp. And I think that'll tie into the ACE train even more so, because ACE is working on getting up to Sacramento and down to Merced, I believe. And it's going to tie the whole valley together. And Mountain House is going to play a big part of that. When the Valley Link system was first legislated in 2018, the legislation called for, it's either 14 or 15 municipalities to come together and form a joint powers authority so that they could meet on a regular basis to start planning and finding funding to be able to make this work. They're still working on some of the funding, a good chunk of the funding, I believe, actually. But federal funds are likely to happen with that too. I know that they've lobbied the feds in Washington about that too. So in the interim, they're making all the plans and they're coming up with some out-of-the-box thinking solutions. And initially, Mountain House we were going to have a station called the Mountain House Station, but it was going to be down off of 580 down in Tracy a ways. And so really ridership would have had to go backwards to get to that station in order to ride to the BART. So that got changed partly because one gentleman who worked for the Community Services District here, Anthony Docto, thought that there could be a better way, and he actually presented an idea that would bring a station much closer to Mountain House. They found some land use issues and some EIR issues, environmental regulation stuff, where he wanted to do it. So ultimately, it planted the seed, and what we ended up with is a plan for a station actually in Mountain House. So for us to have that is going to be a boon, not only for our town, and to make commuting easier for people that live here, but also people throughout the valley, and the traffic over the Altamont, which stands at like 100,000 cars every day on the commute trips back and forth, will be greatly reduced because you can deliver more than 400 people per train ride into the valley, into the Bay Area. And Valley Link started calling the area involved within their sphere of influence the greater, let's see, they call it the Bay Area mega region. That's it. It's a Bay Area mega region. So Mountain House will be at the heart of the mega region is what I'm trying to get at. And, you know, I think it'll be an exciting thing for us to have that available. There's already been some talk of having some shuttle services that will transport people from around town to the station, so you can hopefully keep the traffic and the number of cars to a minimum. You're still going to have a lot of cars, so they're talking about having some major parking structure included in all of that. And, you know, it's going to be a big process, and I'm sure they're going to be looking for opinions and perspective of the people in town as to how they see that working out best. But for us to be linked up to the BART system and to the Bay Area generally, when you have so many people that commute, will be a boon to everybody here. So I think it's a good thing. I believe all of our candidates that have been running for the city council have been in favor of seeing Valley Link through and doing what we need to do to help make that happen. As a city, I'm not sure how this works, but we will actually have to pay into that system, where we've been very fortunate to have a seat at the table, because as a community services district, they easily could have just said, well, you don't qualify. You're not a city you don't qualify to have a voice here. But we've been fortunate that one of our current representatives who's running for city council, Bernice Tingle, has been involved in that planning commission by invitation since the start of that Joint Powers Authority board, along with 14 or 15 cities that are involved, and I think BART has a seat at that table as well. So yeah, it just seems like a great thing, and they seem to be very on track with making it happen. We have some more footage for you of some of the people that were voting today. There you go. Just kind of ask how you voted on being a city. You vote in favor of that?
For the Mountain House? It's a good one, yeah.
Measure D.
Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't had anybody say they didn't vote in support of that. Everybody seems to be in favor of D.
Of course, we have
course,
to.
How about Measure E? Did you understand that one? With the by district or at large or from district?
That means we need to vote by our own district, something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
We voted for by the
By
By district?
Yes.
Oh, that seems to be a popular thing. People are telling me.
Yeah.
Was there a particular reason why you like the idea of having your own representative on the council?
I think if you will be able to have a representative on your own district,
You're gonna be
he would
represented
be,
by
yeah,
your own.
you will. That certain district will be represented more because they will be more aware of what's really going on within
the
their
community.
the community of where that person
What they're
will be
representing?
representing.
Great, thank you. Okay, thanks. That again.
I just hope everybody gets out and vote. It's not really important who you vote for, it's that you get out and exercise your right to vote and get in the habit of voting. Look at the issues and be familiar with them, but exercise that right to vote. It's our right.
That while you are selecting 4 council members and 1 mayor this evening, they are only seated if Measure D passes. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Measure E determines whether in the future they would be the council members would be elected at large, by district, or from district. And then just a reminder that everything would be effective July 1st. So Monday, July 1st would be a very large city council meeting, but there'll be a lot of work that gets done before that. The current board of directors did take an action last year to allocate some dollars for training should we have a city council in waiting this spring. So there'll be a series of meetings in April, May, and June that will be open to the public to orient the new city council on all the actions that they'll be needing to undertake beginning July 1st.
There you go. So can I ask how you voted on being a city? You vote in favor of that?
For the Mountain House? It's a good one, yeah.
Measure D.
Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't had anybody say they didn't vote in support of that. Everybody seems to be in favor of D.
Of course, we have to.
Yeah.
How about Measure E? Did you understand that one? With the by district or at large or from district?
That means we need to vote by our own district, something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
We voted for by the
By
district?
Yes.
Oh, that seems to be a popular thing. People are telling me.
Yeah.
Was there a particular reason why you like the idea of having your own representative on the council?
I think if you will be able to have a representative on your own district,
You're gonna be
he would
represented
be,
by
yeah,
your own.
you will. That certain district will be represented more because they will be more aware of what's really going on within
Within the community.
the community of where that person
What they're
will be
representing?
representing.
Great, thank you. So like we've been saying, there's going to be an update coming shortly from the County Registrar of Voters on our initial vote counts for the new city council. I was trying to get back to my numbers here. But for now, we have a brief video clip that was just sent over remotely from our remote connection at one of the candidate parties, I guess you would say, the election night parties going on, and we'd like to share that for you now.
Check and mate. Thank you, Mountain House. Voting in Andy Sue, voting in myself, currently in the lead. We still have 2 more weeks, maybe 3, for the final election counts to happen. And I just want to thank everyone for their support, ongoing support through the ups and downs of this very messy election. But we are here, we're live, we are at 9 p.m. on election day, and we owe this all to you. Congratulations to the City of Mountain House.
Thank you. Can I ask how did you support cityhood? Measure D? Yeah?
Yeah.
How about the Measure E? Did you understand that one? No? It was a little confusing, people have said, whether to vote by district or at large. Yeah. Well, thank you. So, like Board President Disco just said, that the numbers are early. The results that are showing so far that have been released are very early. It's premature to be calling a victory, I'd say, especially in the council race because it's fairly tight. He is out at an early lead. He's got so far a 3 percentage point plus lead over Dan Harrison, and Bernice Tingle is another 2 points, almost 3 points behind that. And Ronna Green then is in fourth place, another couple points behind that. And it's a very tight race from there with the rest of the candidates. We had 8 candidates running for city council in this race for 4 seats. The top 2 vote getters of those 4 seats will have a 4-year term from the start. The lower 2 of the 4 that get elected will have to run again in 2 years to then get a 4-year seat. And then from there, that will always be a 4-year seat as well. It's just to offset the vote initially. So, and in the mayoral race, Andy Sue's off to an early lead, but again, it's just under 14% of the votes. He's at 61.5%, 61.59% of the votes tallied thus far. Harry Dillon is at 32%, 32.2% to be precise, and Raj Reddy is at 6%. So it's early to be calling anything, but it's reflective of a trend perhaps. And we'll see in just about 10 minutes or less, hopefully, we will get an update from the county registrar to see where we stand with the next batch of votes. I was in communication with Olivia Hale, our registrar, a little bit earlier, and she indicated that they would be posting the next batch at 10. And no, I guess I never did ask her that. I meant to ask her how many she thought that might be, but it'll be the next batch. I think it'll be probably comparable to what we've already gotten. If it's somewhere around 12, 13%, we will have had as much as a quarter of the total vote counted tonight. And then the registrar will update the election totals as they continue to count them for the next few weeks. They have, anybody that voted today, especially if you mailed your vote in, it had to have been postmarked today, by today, March 5th, and it has until, I believe, the 12th that the registrar has to receive it. So any votes, any ballots that they receive by the 12th that are postmarked no later than March 5th will be counted. So they're going to count all the votes, and they've got a team together, and I know that Olivia Hale has gone out of her way with her team to make sure that they have every proper procedure in place to be able to do the vote counting. And then they will provide updates as they can, I believe up to 3 times a week, until they can get to where they can certify the election, which must be done by April 2nd. So if it's a really tight race, that might matter. In the last election, our current county supervisor, Robert Rickman, who is running for re-election, he won like in the last day. He was behind in the early voting fairly significantly and just started crawling and creeping back up with each batch of votes that were counted until right at the end he won. So it's worthwhile to pay attention for the long haul and not assume too much, at least in a fairly tight race. In early returns thus far in the Board of Supervisors District 5 that I'm just speaking of, our current supervisor for District 5, Robert Rickman, is in the lead. He's gotten 52.57% of the vote of the early voting returns. It's 13.9% of the total votes. That's represented as he's gotten over 5,116 votes. And Nancy Young, the mayor of Tracy, is at 31.5% with just over 3,000 votes, 3,061. So, and then Wes Huff is at 15.98%. So again, this is early returns. It'll be interesting to see what happens in this next batch that comes up in the next few minutes. It should be coming shortly. I think the initial batch was a little bit after 8 o'clock. They had said that when the polls close at 8, they would post the initial returns as soon as they could thereafter. And it was not that long after 8 o'clock. So we may have some update here for us soon. In the meantime, you can see the chart on the screen of where the mayoral race in Mountain House stands at the moment, with just 13.9% of the votes counted. And do we have another clip we can show them? Yes, we do. Let's go to another clip. Can I ask you, if you don't mind, how you voted on Measure D on the cityhood?
Yes.
Voted yes?
Voted yes.
I have not talked to anybody who voted no yet.
That's good to hear. Needs to be a yes.
What do you see as the biggest benefit?
Tax dollars. The tax dollars that we don't get from the county, from the state. If we become Mountain House as a city, we'll have the opportunity to get those dollars. Better for the kids, better for everybody. So, appreciate your time.
Do you have another one? There's one that I haven't seen yet from Samek. So once again, if you're just joining us, this is Mountain House Matters in collaboration with Zaytech Academy in the old CSD boardroom. For those of you who've been around a while, you may have come into this boardroom for, CSD board meetings. I was often here, and sometimes, many times, I was the only person in the audience reporting for the paper, and I learned a lot in those times. Mountain House Matters started in 2012, in September 2012, so toward the end of the year. And I quickly realized that to be well and to really be of a service to the community, it would behoove me to become involved in the local coverage of the local political scene and what's happening in town with our residents who were the CSD board. The CSD board first was established on that level where it was elected by the people, with people from town running for the board in 2008. And prior to that, the county board of supervisors would simply take part of their meeting and change their hats and to become the Mountain House CSD board. So for when we hit 1,000 rooftops in 2007 or 2008, whenever that was, that's when that was the benchmark to allow us to elect our own local officials, our residents here who could run the board for the Community Services District. The board makes decisions and gives direction to our city manager, our general manager, who is Steve Pinkerton at this point. We had a series when we were just going through general managers like hotcakes. It was crazy for a little while. It seemed like we didn't have one that fit, or they just didn't last, and it was several that went one after another. Then we had one that stuck around for a while, and then we were fortunate enough to have Mr. Pinkerton come on board in, I want to say 2019. I'm sure he could validate that for me. It's been a boon to us to have him. It's been a great thing to have somebody who's knowledgeable and with the kind of breadth of experience and depth of experience and just knowledge that he carries with him. He's been super great to be able to have here, and we hope to keep him on board a long time. So he is the sole employee of the current board of directors, and I believe that will continue to be the way it runs with the new city council. He will be the sole employee of theirs, and then he oversees all the staff, which I believe is about 45 people, and then we have contractors and stuff that are engaged with the city as well. So back in the day, I would come to the board meetings and get to hear from the local politicians who were really just residents that were doing their best to represent their neighbors and themselves and their interests and all of our interests to try and make this town in the making become a reality and be a success. And the fact that we're able to vote on cityhood and everything that comes with it really is a testament to the early days that were put into making sure that we were on the right path. It's a lot to have a master plan community come out of nothing over 30 years from when it was approved, but really 20 years since it really broke ground and started becoming something. And you look at now we have more than 28,000 people living here. It's pretty remarkable. I was saying the other night that at our Shaping the Future event we had here, when you look at Mountain House, it really is the epitome of the American melting pot. We have so many diverse cultures, religions, ethnicities, people of different colors, faiths, whatever, all living under the same guidelines and within the same parameters and borders of our town. It's a real American melting pot. And for us to succeed, I think demonstrates to the rest of the United States, really, and arguably the world, that this kind of an experiment can really work. And for us to come out of nothing over 20 years really is just remarkable to me. And I think it's arguably unique. And I think that the more we can succeed, the better it is for people everywhere. So it's really great to see this working as it is. And I think to see that people are in favor of taking on the added responsibility and accepting the opportunities that come with becoming a city will have great repercussions in a good way. I'm sure there will be challenges. There'll probably be ways that we fall on our face. That's what happens when you grow. You pick yourself up and you make it better, right? So that's kind of where we are. Do we have an update yet from the county? Probably not. Nope, not yet. Everybody's anxious. It's 13.9% return still. Yeah, this looks like it's the 13.9% are the ballots counted. It's 51,296 ballots that are counted out of 368,210 registered voters. That's for the whole county. Mountain House has, I'm told, around 9,500 registered voters currently. So that's where we are. I can feel the anticipation of this update coming. I was out at the town hall earlier today and over at Central Park and saw that the Little League is up and running. It looks like, I don't know if they're doing real games, but there were two teams out there. Might have just been a scrimmage, but they were happening. The kids were doing their thing. I had a little clip from that. Did you get it, that, Colleen? Which one? The baseball? Oh, send that one to me. Oh. Yeah. Oh, I have my phone again, huh? Yeah. We don't have that one yet. So if you haven't gone to the Mountain House Matters Facebook page yet, or the Mountain House group page, I'd ask that you please do that. I've got a poll there that I'd really love to have everybody, as many people as we can get, to answer the questions on there. It's really just about how you voted and it's really how you voted. It's ask the questions. You can be anonymous if you want, or you can give us your name if you want. And we just ask the questions of how you voted on Measure D and how you voted on Measure E and the candidates for mayor and city council. We'd really like to be able to get a large enough sample so that we can statistically postulate out the results that in a manner that will give us a fairly accurate number. It's kind of late in the game to do that, I realize, because the numbers are already coming in. But if we have those polls based on how you voted, and I'm really asking only for registered voters to reply to that, because I think if we have people that didn't vote chime in on it, then it kind of skews the accuracy of the whole thing. So if registered voters who voted could please go fill out the poll. It's an exit poll, basically, that asks you who you voted for and what you voted for, whether you voted for cityhood or not, and how you voted for Measure E. I didn't get into other regional or statewide candidates at all. Mountain House Matters tends to have a very localized coverage, and I think that's one of the things that makes it succeed, is that people like knowing what's going on here in town. So we're hopeful that we can do more of this type of video coverage and give you kind of a live stream news reporting as we can to supplement what you get in the monthly newspaper. And the anticipation builds as we wait for an update from the registrar, which we do not have yet. It's now 10:09, right?
Check and mate. Thank you, Mountain House. Voting in Andy Sue, voting in myself, currently in the lead. We still have 2 more weeks, maybe 3, for the final election counts to happen. And I just want to thank everyone for their support, ongoing support through the ups and downs of this very messy election. But we are here, we're live, we are at 9 p.m. on Election Day, and we owe this all to you. Congratulations to the City of Mountain House.
That was a candidate for City Council and current MHCSD Board President, Matt Disco, looking excited in his early returns. He is leading the pack in with just under 14% of the votes counted. He's leading the pack of the 8 candidates running for City Council. At this point, he's got about 21% of the vote in total, and that's out of 8 candidates, so that's significant. The next closest candidate is Dan Harrison at 17.92, so that's about 3 percentage plus points behind. That didn't go through. And behind Dan is Bernice Tingle at 15% of the votes. And then Ronna Green is at 13.85, just a little over a point behind there. And then you've got TJ Rattan at 13.04, so he's less than a point behind Ronna at the early stages. And then Suresh Viuru is at 9.14%. Sadia Khan is at 6.17%, and Wahid Mir is at 3.7%. Again, these are early returns. A lot of this could change dramatically. So while Mr. Disco is excited about his spot and the early returns for some of the other races and such, again, it is early. I think the most definitive thing that we know so far is that Measure D is winning by a landslide at 92% of the votes counted so far, with maybe 20% of the total that will be counted in this race. So it's too soon to call anything, but trends are there. Things are beginning to show up. Try that again. So what does this mean for you? What does this mean for all of us in Mountain House as far as becoming a city? The city of Mountain House will basically be the same place that it was yesterday, and it will launch in July. July 1st will be the first official day of the new city. Leading up to that, as Mr. Pinkerton stated in a little spot earlier, there will be a series of meetings to help bring the new council members, all of the council members and the mayor up to speed on what it's going to look like to be able to run a city, and what changes are that are going to be impacted in how they move forward. But the day-to-day life here in Mountain House will probably remain largely the same. Your property taxes and your special taxes are not going to go up. We're told that that should not be a factor. The LAFCO comprehensive fiscal analysis indicated that we should be well suited for the next following year as we have a year to really kind of ramp up to become a city. And we have 3 years for the new city council to establish a city plan, which basically will replace the master plan that we've always been ruled under. So by and large, the candidates have indicated that they will follow the general master plan, as it has really helped us succeed to where we are. I didn't hear anybody say that they wanted to scrap the master plan and start over. I'm sure there will be modifications depending on a lot of factors of what's going on and changes in how things are happening. We've got the Valley Link station coming in. There's just things that need to be considered. But by and large, I believe the master plan will be roped into how the general plan will be developed. The other aspect of all of that is part of what was built into this new city incorporation process that the LAFCO approved was that the current community services district will not completely go away. 17 of the 18 powers are going to be ceded over to the city. The other power is the master restrictions enforcement. So the Mountain House Community Services District will continue only really in the guise of managing master restrictions. CC&Rs cannot be done by a city, so in order to maintain that, they had to keep the CSD as an entity. It'll be a It's a sub-directory. It's not a subdirectory. It's a sub-department of the city. And at board meetings, when there's a CSD issue to be considered, the council will have to basically change hats and become the CSD board for a time to deal with the master restrictions issue. So that will continue to be in existence moving forward. So the city council will be able to shape new directions in the new city plan. And I think a lot of why at least some of the candidates wanted to run for city council was so that they could have a voice in what that looks like, and any changes or not changes, if we wanted to maintain status quo or take the city in new directions. The boundaries for the city of Mountain House are pretty much the same as what the boundaries have been. There are a couple of little spots that were not part of the annexed area that will be brought into the city boundaries. But the boundaries of Mountain House that we've all known since the start, including the area north of Byron that goes up to the Lake District, as it's being called now. Neighborhood J is being developed. They've got the infrastructure pretty well developed there, and they're going to break ground later this year with the first homes that will happen. And there was just the groundbreaking for the second fire station on that side of the bridge to nowhere, which will now be the bridge to somewhere. The bridge to the Lake District may be what it's called. We shall see if that sticks or what it might be called. The bridge to somewhere seems to be circulating a lot. Or the bridge to our future. What do you think? You can post your comments in the Mountain House Matters Facebook page or right here on the YouTube page where you should be watching this. Let's see if we've heard from the county yet. Refreshing the page. Nope, still 13.9%. Everybody's on the edge of their seats waiting for that update. And then a lot of them will probably go to bed after that. If you just happen to be tuning in, you can see on the screen there that this is the early returns for the mayoral race. That Andy Sue is off to an early lead, and both Harry Dillon and Raj Reddy are on the board, and Andy's at 744 votes, or 61.59%. Harry's at 389 votes at 32.2%. And Raj Reddy has 75 votes at 6.21%. So this could be a continuing trend, or it could be just an early slice of what it's going to look like, and that could change. That's why we're all sitting at the edge of our seat waiting for the update from the county. Do we have another clip maybe we can run? Thank you.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Can I ask how are you in favor of Mountain House becoming a city?
I am, yes. Yeah.
So you voted yes on D.
I did vote yes on D.
You care to share anything else? How you voted on E? Which way to govern?
I believe it was by district.
Yeah?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no
Hey,
problem.
Samek?
How's it going?
It's going all right. Can I get you voting?
Sure.
You came at the right time.
They're gonna get me putting my wife's in too.
You care to share anything? Are you in favor of Mountain House becoming a city?
I did vote to become a city. I voted by district for future elections. I think there's differences in established communities versus those still dealing with developer issues. So I think that's part of it.
So you think they'll get better representation by district?
I think you'll get hopefully more people who are more in tune with unique issues faced by different pockets of the community.
There you go. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Good job. Thank you. Is this your first time voting?
For them, yep.
Yeah?
Okay.
You get it? Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Good job.
Can I ask if you guys supported the turning into a city?
Yes, we did.
Right on.
Hi, guys.
Good job, guys. And our update is in. We went from 13.9 to 14.1. So I hope you're not losing sleep by staying up. We've got 51,929 ballots counted out of the total registered voters of 368,210 in the county. About 9,500 registered voters are in Mountain House itself. So we now have, we got 0.2% added to our total, so we're at 14.1. I've put in a text to the registrar to see if that's going to be all we're going to get tonight. So I'll let you know when I hear from her. The numbers look similar. Andy Sue is at 61.59%. Harry Dillon is at 32.2%. And Raj Reddy is at 6.21% for the mayoral race. And then for the council race, yeah, not much has changed. I mean, that wasn't a whole lot more votes, so I kind of assumed we might get a bigger chunk in the second batch. Never safe to assume anything, am I right? Yes, we all know what that means, to assume. Won't even say it. Measure D is at 92.16%, 1,069 votes in favor. I don't think that changed at all, did it? And then at-large voting for Measure E is still on top at 46.99%, and that represents 539 votes. by district is 30.69%. In second place at 352 votes. And from district is 256 votes for 22.32%. So, I mean, the numbers for those are relatively small yet. So if you're looking at 14% of the vote, that's still arguably a fairly tight race, even though there's more than 16 percentage points between the at-large and by-district voting. It is still very early. Whereas the Measure D at 92.1%, 16% in favor, even at this point, that looks like a pretty sure thing. And that's kind of where that goes. In the, I don't know, it's funny. I expected more. So it is what it is, I guess. In the race for the Assembly District 13, Rhodesia Ransom is at 41.64% on top over Denise Aguilar Mendez at 34.49% and Edith Villapudua at 23.87%. Rhodesia Ransom has 10,620 of the votes counted. This is on well, it's not whole county-wide, right? It's our District 13, which we are part of. I guess the surprise there is if there's a surprise there, is that Edith Villapudua is in third place at this point at 23.87 with 6,087 votes. And Denise Aguilar Mendez is in between at 8,796 votes for 34.49%. So there's a more than a 7 percentage point gap for Rhodesia Ransom in their early lead. And I'm sure that Rhodesia Ransom is probably not celebrating yet because she had a sizable lead when she ran for supervisor before. And she has since been serving as a lead person for Congressman Josh Harder's office. And in wherever that went, scrolling down the thing here. In the Board of Supervisors District 5 race, yeah, you know, I mean, this is barely a change because 0.2 percentage points is not going to add a lot. With 5,282 votes thus far, Robert Rickman, the current supervisor for our District 5, is on top with 52.99% of the vote. He is more than 20 percentage points ahead of second place Nancy Young at 31.13%, 3,103 votes. And then coming in third is Wes Huffman. Thus far, again, 14% of the total vote, 14.1% of the vote. Yeah. I don't know if they're going to update that again or not. Quite possibly not. Waiting to hear back too from that. But again, is this your first time voting?
For them, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get it? Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Good
job. All right.
Can I ask if you guys supported the turning into a city?
Yes, we did.
Right
Yes.
on.
Hi, guys.
Good job, guys. That again.
I just hope everybody gets out and vote. It's not really important who you vote for, it's that you get out and exercise your right to vote and get in the habit of voting. Look at the issues and be familiar with them, but exercise that right to vote. It's our right.
Can I ask you, if you don't mind, how you voted on Measure D on the cityhood?
Yes.
Voted yes?
Voted yes.
I have not talked to anybody who voted no yet.
That's good to hear. Needs to be a yes.
What do you see as the biggest benefit?
Tax dollars. You know, the tax dollars that we don't get from the county, from the state, you know, if we become Mountain House as a city will have the opportunity to get those dollars. Better for the kids, better for everybody. So, appreciate your time.
While you are selecting 4 council members and 1 mayor this evening, they are only seated if Measure D passes. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Measure E determines whether in the future they would be the council members would be elected at large, by district, or from district. And then just a reminder that everything would be effective July 1st. So Monday, July 1st would be a very large city council meeting, but there'll be a lot of work that gets done before that. The current board of directors did take an action last year to allocate some dollars for training should we have a city council in waiting this spring. So there'll be a series of meetings in April, May, and June that will be open to the public to orient the new city council on all the actions that they'll be needing to undertake beginning July 1st.
All right, I think we're probably going to call that for our nightly reporting here for election night coverage for Mountain House Matters at the Zaytech Academy, your old CSD building. It's been an interesting adventure, and frankly, I'm a little disappointed that we only got a 14%. I kind of thought they were going to be able to produce a larger second batch update. I have not heard back yet whether or not there will be more tonight. If I'm remembering correctly from past elections, this may be all we get tonight, and we'll have to look for more in the next few days. If that's not the case, we will certainly update on our Mountain House Matters Facebook page and probably share with the Mountain House group page so that you can keep abreast on what's happening. There is a link that maybe I'll just post the link to this updates page where you can check for yourself as well. It's been my pleasure to be here with you tonight. I hope that you've had a good evening and in anticipation of where this election is going. The good news that I think is fairly safe to say that Measure D looks like it's going to pass. So I think I mean, you know, barring some dramatic shift, but at 92.16% of the votes counted, at 14.1% of the total votes counted, it's probably actually, given the number of registered voters in Mountain House and the number of those who are likely to vote, we may be at 20% of the total votes being counted at this point. So we're going to sign off for now, and thank you for joining us. On behalf of Khalid at the Zaytech Academy and myself, Brian Harrison with Mountain House Matters, thank you very much for tuning in and joining us, and I hope you have a good evening, and stay tuned. There's going to be lots more to follow. Have a good night.